guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the M4J network here on OpenTTD. Today I'm going to be doing some route rebuilding, or actually new route building technically, because this is a route that has not existed before, but will exist shortly. George, I'm sorry, you're going to have to update the map again, I'm afraid, and there's a couple of new stations that need to be added to the list as well, because I was looking at getting the Gardcity Southern, South Western and South Eastern franchises back up and running. And just like London, Gardcity has got a maze of rail connections in and around the south of the city, very much like London in that respect, and it's actually inspired by London, so that makes a lot of sense when you think about it. But one of the big issues for me when doing this is always the fact that there's no termination, like there's no way to get a train from Wrinston Airport to the terminus platforms at GSMA, or at least there wasn't until today, because I was looking over here at Shoreham Junction and I realised there was space here for an extra pair of lines. And if there's space for an extra pair of lines, then there's probably going to be space to build a 4-track main line between here and Wrinston. And it just so happens that Wrinston has that little branch that starts off at 4 tracks and goes down to 2. So this was kind of made in heaven, really. This was perfect for what I was wanting to do with this. There is a little bit of a rejig to the junction at Shoreham, just so that fast trains can get through to the through lines and into GSMA that way. The slow lines do use the platforms either side of the fast line, but I might rejig that again so that they can use the what used to be the Gardcity Overground, technically is still the Gardcity Overground platforms, second from the west, if that makes sense. So you've got the Gardcity Overground from the circle loop that use the westernmost platforms, and then the two after that are also Gardcity Overground platforms, but from GSMA, and they use the terminus platforms there. That's now been rejigged slightly so that it's not just for that, but it's also for the slow line. I don't know if I'm making a lot of sense with this, to be honest. Basically, there's been a junction rejig so that things should now work a little bit better. I also spent ages trying to build this junction here. Basically, there's that section in London where the the London Overground trains run either side of the main running line, and then you've got southern trains that also use that section of line, and then you've got fast trains from southern and I believe maybe southeastern as well in the middle. I was trying to do that here, then I realised why not just do it in pairs, because by the time we get to Wrinston it has to be in pairs anyway. So we've got fast line pair and a slow line pair, and that works quite well. New stations here. I will get the names of the stations for you now because I've got the game open on my other screen. So where are we? There's Wrinston. So we've got a new station at New Chenfing Field North, which is just to the east of Gardcity Wrinston Airport, and that's on the new branch. And then it tunnels under the lake, which you see here. We have a new station in Preburg, which is just called Preburg. I think the old, Preburg Lake is the overground station, so that's fine. I might rename that Preburg Central, actually. I'm going to do that really quickly. There we go, Preburg Central. And then also now on Gardcity Southern is Wrenwood South, which is still an overground station as well. But on the slow lines it serves Gardcity South Western and I think, no, actually just South Western, I believe. And then it also serves the overground, and it's on the fast lines as well, but the map isn't that detailed, so we don't need to worry about that. As I said, junction rejig at Shoreham. I haven't tested it fully yet, but I know that the Gardcity Connect trains still work, so that's good. I have done a little bit of speed limiting along the line here as well now, so in this episode you'll see that the signalling between GSMA and Dinstown via the original southwestern route has now been complete. And then off camera I've done a little bit more of the Tatham branch, but not a huge amount. But the idea is to take it down at least to Fort Flonwood Parkway, if not further. And I'm trying to remember, I don't think I did the line down to Charwood. I haven't signalled it properly. Like, it exists, it's been built, but it hasn't been signalled and speed limited properly yet. But that will change as well in the not too distant future. And the idea is to throw as many trains onto the network as possible now. I have been working on not only getting the third rail trains up and running, the EMUs, but I've also been working on a new train myself. I bit off way more than I can chew because I chose to do the 313s. Because having done the Network Central video a couple of weeks ago, I thought how cool would it be to actually have 313s operating there so that I could run down to places like Tarnway and Funston and maybe even down as far as Denston and Carnegie. What I hadn't factored in was the fact that the 313s are very, very, very diverse. So you've got the 313-0s, which were the ones used by Great Northern. They have a top speed of 75 miles per hour on overhead electrified rails, but on third rail, between Drayton Park and Moorgate, they've been electronically limited to 30 miles per hour. So I have to include that in the code, which actually isn't that... I don't think it's that difficult to do, but we'll see. Then you've got the 313-1s, which I believe were used by... in fact, they were also Great Northern, but I think they're a variant of the Great Northern. So they were used just on the trains out of King's Cross. So they're not electronically limited to 30 miles per hour on the third rail, but they are still limited to 75 miles per hour on both. And then you've got the 313-2s, which were taken by Southern, and I think are still operated by Southern, I believe. I might be wrong there. Someone will correct me. Someone always corrects me. But those are only third rail. I should also mention, I think the 313-1s are only overhead electrified, I believe. I think they had their third rail shoes removed. But yeah, the 313-2s are third rail only, so they've had their pantographs removed. Now that probably has to reflect in the sprites, which means I might have to make new sprites for that. Personally, I don't know why they removed the pantographs. I know it's extra maintenance and stuff, but if they're not being used, then they're not really being worn down as much. I'd like to actually hear that. If you work in train maintenance and you know why they removed, like the third rail shoes, I can kind of understand because they're quite close to the ground and they might rub against things and catch against things. They could potentially be a hazard. But pantographs that are in the down position, operating on lines that are third rail only, do they need to be removed? I don't know if they do. But anyway, so that's problem number one, is the different forms of electrification and also the different speed limits depending on which version of electrification you're using. The second problem is every single operator who had a 313 had it configured to a different capacity. Great Northern, I believe, had 251 passengers per 3-car train, but Silverlink had 150 something. Why? I don't know. You'd think Silverlink operating on the North London line would have had a higher capacity, if anything, and gone for a more commuter style, benches down the sides, particularly when it became London Overground as well. You'd imagine it'd be benches down the side and handrails in the middle. That to me implies a higher capacity, not a lower one. But again, maybe it's just seating capacity is the one listed. In fact, I think it is. Maybe that is the reason then. I don't know if I'm going to go that detailed with them, because to change a capacity by livery is something I can't even fathom how to begin to do. So that might not happen. But everything else, the speed limits, the different forms of electrification, I believe I have those done. I also have an M4J livery train that will be available in all three variants. I was asking this on Discord the other day, actually, the history of the 313s. I think I've got each livery for each version now. Bearing in mind that BR, NSE and Wagon also had the 313/0s and 1s, even though they weren't called the 0s and 1s back then, because I think it was 2008 that they were split into their variations. Before then, there were no subclasses. And I think it's only when the 2s went to Southern. Actually, no, it wasn't that. What happened? Something. Oh, when Silverlink. Yeah, okay, when Silverlink became London Overground, the trains that were operating on Silverlink were transferred over to Great Northern, which I think were First Capital Connect at the time, and that's when the subclasses came in. And then a little bit later on, some 313s transferred to Southern when it became Go via Thameslink Railway, and that's when the 313-2s were born. So, I'm pretty sure there is a way to do it by livery, because I know that in the European train sets, particularly the Swiss, the German and the Austrian, you can change a unit's length by going through the cargo list which is basically what you do when you change the livery as well. You're technically changing the cargo, even though it's still passenger. It's passenger, but it looks like this is what you're doing. So that's something I might have to look into. I might have to call another favour in from the guys at BR Trains, if they know how to do it, of course, because I don't know if there are any other trains in the BR Train set that does do that. If not, then it'll just be 252 throughout. And that's technically not unrealistic, because overall capacity is what's counted in the game, whereas seating capacity is what was counted when I was doing research. One thing this has flagged up for me, by the way, is there is a distinctive lack of a website that catalogues each train when it was introduced, different livery variations and things like that. Wikipedia, you'd think, would be a good source for that, but it only lists the trains that are currently in circulation, and because half the 313s have now been scrapped, under 313/0 it just says scrapped. It doesn't say this train operated in BR colours, NSE colours, things like that. So if there's any budding train spotters out there, or rail enthusiasts who also know how to code a website, actually no, I'll make the website, I just need the data. So if you have the information on the trains, that would be very, very helpful. We could perhaps make a database for rail enthusiasts to go and look up for different trains when they operated and under what guise. Because especially when you're creating a set like BR Trains, I have another newfound respect for the guys, because they had to find out a lot of this information themselves, because Wikipedia isn't always a fountain of knowledge, as it turns out. So yeah, thanks to the guys over on Discord who did help me out with that. I kind of had a feeling I knew, but it was nice to have it sort of affirmed for me. So yeah, massive thanks for that. And we should now have 313s running on the network in the not too distant future. The network will be available for download soon as well, because pretty much all the existing main lines that hadn't been completed have now been completed, I believe. The Network Central, I think, was the last on the list. I can't remember there being any other big junction stations like Wrinston, for example, or Quinn City. Actually, Quinn City does have that extra spur, but because I still don't know where that's going to go yet, I suppose I can just leave that up to you guys as to where you want to build that. So I think this map will be available for download again soon. I might come up with a better way of making the maps available for download, because I'm not that comfortable sharing my Google Drive because of things that have happened, particularly this year, with people abusing my Google Drive. So that might change, but it will be up on the website in the future, and I will also be uploading my version of the BR Trains repository onto the website as well, because first of all, it's in the license. If I share BR Trains, I have to include the repository. It is repository, isn't it? That is the right word I'm looking for. And also because if other people wish to add to it with their own liveries, for example, they can do so. As well as adding the exact templates that BR Trains uses, I will also include the Photoshop files that I have used to create the M4J variants. Now, they're not the best, I'll admit that, because I've literally just taken the BR livery on most of them and then just swapped some colours around. I would like to be able to make my own liveries in the future. I have mentioned before that pixel art is not my forte. I was doing it not too long ago, but wasn't particularly great at it. However, I'd like to give it a bash, because I want to do more than just create, you know, M4J livery that's basically BR but with blue and red instead of blue and white. I want to create my own liveries from scratch. I also want to turn M4J Rail into a proper brand as well, and maybe put it on t-shirts and stuff. But before I can do that, I need to learn how to do pixel art. But if there's any artists out there who would like to create their own liveries, I will include the Photoshop files. They're obviously not going to be realistic, because those trains never existed in real life. But I think sometimes there's realism and sometimes there's like alternate realism. And I think I'm moving more towards alternate realism, in that it could still exist in the real world, but it just happens not to right now. That's the kind of mindset I'm going into this with. What else was I going to say? There was a few other things. I've just realised I'm only halfway through this video as well, which is interesting. I thought I'd talked for England then. In terms of rail news, there is one thing that I thought was kind of cool. I mentioned them last week, I believe, or the week before. There wasn't a normal episode last week, was there? Oh, I'll talk about the route overviews in a minute as well, because I want to go on about those. But yeah, Brightline. I mentioned Brightline recently as being one of the only rail operators in America, passenger rail operators in America, that actually owned their own tracks. They're currently building a high-speed route between, is it West Palm Beach and Miami. They're extending it to Orlando. In fact, they already operate between West Palm Beach and Miami. They're building an extension to Orlando. As part of that extension, they're going to Orlando Airport. But plans have recently been announced for them to extend from Orlando International Airport to Disney Springs at the Walt Disney World Resort. I, as both a theme park enthusiast and a rail enthusiast, welcome that news with open arms. I embrace it warmly, give it a big hug and a soft kiss on the cheek. That is awesome news. Universal apparently aren't very happy about that though, and you can kind of understand why. So they're campaigning to either have the station moved closer to them or to have transport connections from Disney Springs to Universal. I actually, considering Disney love monorails and people mover systems and things like that, I think building this new rail station is a very good opportunity to perhaps build a light rail system between Disney Springs and City Walk at Universal Orlando. How possible that is, I don't know, because I don't know much about City Walk. I know roughly where it is, and I know they've got like big parking garages, oh god, I went American. Parking garages, car parks basically, multi-story car parks for those of you on the east side of the pond. So I don't know how feasible it will be to build it at the Universal end, but I imagine the Disney end, they have already said that they're going to extend the Disney Skyline to Disney Springs to connect up with the station. Bearing in mind that this railway station isn't being built at the Ticket and Transportation Centre, it's actually being built at Disney Springs, which currently, I don't think there's even a monorail connection to Disney Springs. I think it is buses only. So to extend the Skyline would be a good place to start. And then to maybe, I would like to see Disney get rid of the bus system completely, because as handy as it can be, I think it's not very good for the environment. Even if they are more environmentally friendly buses, the fact of the matter is it's still a bus. So if you have something like the Skyline or the monorail or light rail, something like that, I think that's a better alternative myself. And that would be something I would rather see operating in and around Walt Disney World. But yeah, this new railway station it seems to be opening a few doors for other sort of extension plans and expansion plans that Disney have been sitting on for God knows how long. So I think it's awesome news, and I am looking forward to seeing what they do with it. I think that'll be really, really cool. Going back to the route overview videos then, they seem to be received quite well, although the first episode, in fact, let me look at the viewing figures. And I know it's not all about viewing figures, don't worry, I'm not going to like compare and contrast, but I think the series has sort of waned in interest a little bit. The idea for the series is to make it try and be as fluid as possible. So in other words, episode 1 was GSJ to Denston. That's got good viewing figures, actually. I'm quite happy with that. Episode 2, which is the most popular one so far, started at Denston and went all the way up to Sunnington. Episode 3 started at Sunnington and has gone down to GSMI. Episode 4, the plan is to start at GSP, Gardcity St Peter, and travel out on the Gardcity Western Railway. Now I know at the moment I keep mentioning what next week's video is going to be at the end of this week's video. I'm going to stop doing that from next week onwards, because in all honesty I have no idea where I'm going to go from there. I'm not telling you where we're going yet, I'm just saying we're running on Gardcity Western Railway out of GSP. So we'll see, well, I know where it's going, but you guys will find out where it's going when you watch the video. After that though, I really don't know, because there are places on the network right now where you just can't get to. I suppose you could do really convoluted journeys like GSMA to Bar City Central and then Bar City Central up to Gronwell, for example. But then the only way to get back to somewhere else where you can then travel onwards is to go back to Bar City Central again. So it might not always be one journey flows nicely into the other. There might be some random ones. I'm also planning on doing things like the Gardcity Overground and maybe not the HLR, because that would take me days. The cross-region train, that video took me 6 days to edit, and that's literally not quite 9 to 5, but that's working on it for like 4 or 5 hours a day to get that video done. So I regret that decision immensely. The thing that did it for me was including more captions. I think what I might do again moving forward is have less captions in the video, but have the video be a premiere so we can talk about it in the chat. But I'm going to try, there might be a week coming up where there's no route overview video. The reason I'll be doing that is to try and bulk record a load of them, and then I can do all the graphics in one go, all the voiceovers in one go, all of the animations in one go, and then like produce maybe 3 or 4 at a time and get them all uploaded. And it also then means I have time to premiere them so that you guys can set reminders and join in the chat. The first one we did, GSJ to Denston, premiered it, and that was a really good chat. People were asking questions, people were joining in. I really enjoyed watching it. I know it's my own video and I shouldn't be saying that, but I really enjoyed watching it. I thought it actually turned out really well. The second one, I haven't watched in its entirety yet. I've watched it in bits, because obviously I edited it. It's also the most editing I've ever done on a video, that one. God, it was bad. It was really bad. Like, individual animations. I think in total, there were 170 assets that I had to make for that video. And that includes, like, the text-to-speech voiceover. That wasn't too bad, because you literally just type it into a box and it does it all for me. So that was very, very handy. Although I would like people to record lines for me in the future. I know my brother has offered to do it, which is very, very good, and I'm very thankful for that. I might do one as well, although I'm just going to try and avoid using my own voice if I can. Maybe I'll run it through a modulator or something, make myself sound like a robot. That'd be funny. I might do, if I do maybe Gardcity Overground or something like that. But I'd like to have the franchise holders do their voices for their franchises. Now that might not be as easy as I've just made it sound, but who knows? I might talk with them about that. And actually, on that subject, I have 2 patrons at the moment who I've messaged a few times now about redeeming their rewards, and they haven't got back to me yet. So guys, if you're watching, if you're not interested in redeeming rewards, please tell me. That would be nice. If you are interested, I've sent you messages both via email and on Patreon, so do get in touch and let me know the kind of things you want, and I'll put them into action for you. Oh, there was something else I was going to say then as well, which was really important. I've completely forgotten what it was, which implies that it wasn't that important, but I have a horrible feeling it was. It's something to do with... oh yeah, 170 assets, that was it. So all the graphics, all the captions, the animations, having to edit the graphics files to get the little train that I then use for the animation, making the animations. I've been quite lucky so far in that all of the stations have added up to quite a nice even number. Whether it's 6s or 4s. So the GSMI video I did on Tuesday, that there was 7 stations in total, but I managed to do it as 2 lots of 4, because I always have the right hand most station be the left hand most station on the next animation. So that worked quite well for me. But I know there'll be a day soon where that goes out of the window, and I'll have to like go back and do them from scratch, which I'm not particularly looking forward to doing. I'm trying to make it as modular as possible, to make it as easy to do as possible, and that is still potentially doable, but we will see. But I'm glad they're being received well. I know there's another series that I've talked about regarding OpenTTD, and I think this one that I'm doing now is kind of a confidence booster that I needed to do the other one, because the other one is going to be a history of the M4J network, how it came to be, because that's the question I'm asked the most, is why does this do this, what's your inspiration, things like that. So I think it'd be easier to do it as a video series. I'm going to try and make the episodes short though, so they're not going to be like an hour long each. They're literally going to be, here's episode 1, this is what happened with the game. Here's episode 2, this is when I built my first station. Here's episode 3, this is my way of thinking when it comes to doing this. And it's kind of like a tutorial series, but it's mostly going to be like a story driven, this is how it came to be type thing. Some people might not like that. I consider it to be my first journey into the world of documentary making. Who knows, I could be the rail version of Shane Dawson. We'll never know. But yeah, I'm really glad this series has gone down well. It's something that I've wanted to do for a long, long time. I've been inspired by lots of different people for creating these videos, the route overviews this is, and I'm really happy that it's been well received. Comments aren't as present as I'd like, let's say, but the like count is really good, particularly on this week's video. It's the highest it's been for a long, long time, so I'm very happy with that. And I think the first one actually was even higher, thinking about it, so that's also awesome. But yeah, there'll be plenty more where those came from. We've got so many new services being added to the network, which means we've got even more services that we can do for route overviews. So that will be what the future is. Have I not? I don't think I've named the videos properly as well. That might be hurting the view count. I might go back and rename those. But yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. The new route is going to be up and running. I will be adding trains in the not too distant future. I think I've already got service schedules for South Western. If I haven't, then I'll be adding them. Particularly as we're now going to be running down to places like Charwood as well, so it'd be nice to get that integrated. And I think next week's episode is going to be me building the depot that these trains are going to run out of, because I have a plan of action for that too. So until then, thanks very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course if you enjoyed the series, drop some comments down below with ideas for future episodes. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, be sure to hit the subscribe button. If you have already subscribed to the channel, thank you guys for your continued support, and until next time, I will see you soon.